Okay, I think we're just about ready to get started here. So thank you again for joining us. All right. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to Concordia University's fourth space. Thank you for joining us for the Sustainability Action Fund Spotlight Series. Today's panel and workshop is focusing on organizing food and agriculture projects. To help situate you, we are streaming to YouTube Live from Fourth Space, which is located on unceded Indigenous lands in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. At Fourth Space, we work with our university community to mobilize knowledge by co-creating daily activities to examine research questions and projects in development here at the university. We are running this event as a live stream meeting, so we welcome your comments and questions with a raised hand or via the chat if you're participating by Zoom. For those of you in the space, if you'd like to join in, just let us know by raising a hand and we'll be sure to get a microphone to you. It is now my pleasure to hand it over to the Executive Director of the Sustainability Action Fund, Sebastian Dupuy.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Sebastian Dupuy, and we're happily presenting this Spotlight series on food and agriculture projects. So for those who don't know about the Sustainability Action Fund, we're a fee levy organization at Concordia, and our mission is to foster an inclusive culture of sustainability at Concordia. And so the main way we do that is through project funding for student-led projects in sustainability. We'd also have some sustainability research awards, a couple different project funding streams, and then we do run some workshop series like these, where our seasoned project leaders get an opportunity to speak to people who either have ideas, are just starting out, are already have their projects moving in a particular direction and want to glean some insights and strategies for how they can build their projects and navigate the obstacles that either leading a project or leading a project in a university setting may present. We're here with 4 of our project leaders. We've got Andrea Tremblay from Mind, Heart, Mouth. We've got Caleb Wolcott from Cultivation. We've got Eseosa Idemudia from People's Potato. And we've got Hunter Colby-Cook from Le Frigo Vert. So right now, the way that this event's going to go is we're going to have a little bit of a presentation from each, just like kind of an oral presentation from each of our project leaders here, our participants. And after that, we can dive into some more questions, have more of like a round table, and anyone who wants to ask questions, even detailed questions about projects that they're working on or anything that these folks have worked on here. We can dive into that fairly free flow. Feel free to just raise your hands, ask questions as we go along. And that's pretty much it. So I guess we'll start now with Andrea. So what projects related to food and agriculture have you worked on at Concordia? Or on and even not at Concordia?
I've been running since 2019. Oh, sorry. Is it ready? Yes. Okay, so I'm Andrea Tremblay. I'm a third-year PhD student here at Concordia. I've been running Mind, Heart, Mouth garden on the Loyola campus since 2019. It started as my MA research project and is now my PhD research, or at the center of my research project. It's also a lot more than that. So there's multiple layers to this project. On the one hand, I started wanting to talk about food security, improve food insecurity in students. As we know that 40% of students in post-secondary schools in Canada are food insecure. So that was one of the main things. The project quickly became an intergenerational project through the Perform Center at Concordia. With the first year, 2019, about a dozen older adults joining in the project. And that model remained. All the volunteers working in the garden benefit from the harvest. And so that's really it has been at the center of my work in food producing and I guess distributing. The first 3 years were all the food grown was donated to food banks. and during COVID, especially to other organizations like emergency food baskets for either for students or for people in the neighborhood. And for the past 2 years, I've been created a collaboration with New Hope Senior Citizens, a community organization in NDG. And basically all the food, or most of the food we've been growing, goes to the volunteers and to New Hope. So that's been mainly my work in food at Concordia.
Hi, I'm Caleb. I'm one of the worker members of Coop Cultive Action. So we're a solidarity co-op, which means that we have both community and worker ownership. So our board of directors is made up of community organizations that support us and that are in the same field as our work, as well as the worker members of the cooperative. And we're a fairly large team. We have John Nathaniel, Nico, Mohammed, Eric, and Kim, who are also worker members. So we have 6 people as part of the main organization right now, which gives us a lot of breadth to be able to do a lot of exciting things, from educational programs, different 4 seasons growing programs, including microgreens and salad greens in the Concordia greenhouse, as well as mushrooms, and some different forays into other more experimental things as well. A mainstay of our work is about a quarter or a third of an acre market garden that we have at the Loyola campus, where we grow food for community-supported agriculture baskets, so weekly baskets that people sign up to, community members, students, that people get, a share of the harvest every week throughout the growing season, as well as through the Concordia Farmers Market, both at the downtown campus and at Loyola, which operates in the summer and the fall, and then to the Hive Cafe, as well as the Petit Marché de la Chine, which is a community organization that distributes food and has a farmers market in La Chine. And then also to the Hive Free Lunch program. So that, there are a lot of ways to access our produce, both through market and for sale, and also through subsidized ways, like either subsidized food baskets through our sliding scale solidarity fund, or at the Hive Free Lunch program. And then we run education programs, including a whole bunch of different workshops with different organizations. We've done a lot of workshops through student associations this year. So student associations will have workshops that are then open for free to the public, and to the members of the associations. And then we also do workshops that people sign up for on a whole bunch of different topics, from pollinators to mushrooms to microgreens to seedlings. And then we also have a full summer course that people can sign up to, either from the community to learn about agriculture, and learn about agriculture in the context of food justice issues and food sovereignty issues, which is one of the things that's unique about our programs, is that we really weave those two things together. You can often learn the theory of food sovereignty, in university or through reading books or whatever, and you take practical courses on gardening. But it's more rare to be able to have a more kind of formal education program that weaves those things together. And that's what we're doing. We have a summer course that's free for Concordia students, but then also open for community signups.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eseosa Idamudia. Most people know me as Sosa, and I work at the People's Potato. I'm sure most of you are aware, but the People's Potato is a food security organization based in Concordia University. And during the fall and winter semesters, we have our, not currently daily, but near daily lunch service, where we serve up to 450, 500 portions of food to students and the community at large. We have emergency food basket giveaway distribution twice a month, as well as we're getting to the point where we're running monthly workshops about food preparation. And during the summer months and leading into the fall, we have a garden plot out on Loyola campus. I'm currently the coordinator main coordinator of that garden space at Loyola campus. And the garden space is mostly a teaching space. The produce that is grown there goes to our volunteers, gets transformed to be brought back to the kitchen, or else gets donated to local food security organizations that we share values with. So in the past, we have donated to the Head and Hands food pantry program, and I'm hoping to continue it this year as well. Yeah, so yeah, I don't have all the cool things that like Andrea and Caleb mentioned, but if you come to my garden plot, you're gonna have a good time. So, and you'll get some free delicious produce. So there's that.
And music.
Techno garden.
Thanks so much, Sosa. Hunter, you're up next.
Okay, sure. Hi, everybody. Sorry. I work for the Frigo Vert, which is an anti-capitalist and anti-colonial group that works mostly focused on food, providing food in ethically sourced ways, making food affordable, trying to address some of the systemic issues around food accessibility, food sovereignty. We also do all kinds of workshops. We operate like a community space, which gets used by all kinds of different groups. Yeah, we've been part of Concordia. Last year was our 30th year, so I've been there 8 years, and yeah, we do different things. Farmers markets, some small-time producers sell their things through our store. It's like a subsidized grocery program. We've done the food basket thing as well. We worked over the pandemic on the Loyola farm, the city farm school, because they weren't able to get students and volunteers on there. So we worked with some other people to grow a bunch of food there that we gave away. Food basket program. We do subsidized grocery, cafe food, all kinds of different things. So I really like it. Before that, I was like trained to work on farms and work in restaurants and all kinds of different ways of working with food. So yeah, that's me and a little bit about Le Frigo Vert.
Great, thanks so much, Hunter. One of the questions I wanted to ask all of you is really around kind of like partnerships and mutual aid, because starting a project in food, whether it's around food justice, but just specifically growing food, it's difficult. It's difficult to get an idea off of the ground, especially if you're alone. Oftentimes those projects that are linked with other folks, that are linked with other organizations, that have a community around it, tend to be more successful rather than those that kind of are just in one person leading it. So if you could each maybe touch on how mutual aid and partnerships with other community organizations, how that's impacted the work that you do, how it may impact in the future. If you want to kind of talk about anything that you've all dreamt of in this respect, or how it's kind of shaped the work that you've done. So maybe, how about Sosa, would you want to start off? Just because I'm facing you and I want to switch it around a little bit so we're not always going in the same order, if that's okay. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but this is a spotlight series. Cheesy dad joke.
It was a good one. As far as like collaboration and mutual aid goes, I feel like that's always been like a through thread through the potato history. Like, I've been working at the Potato for 8 years. It was established in 1999, and like learning more about the history of the organization and how essentially like students like requesting access to resources or making a demand, and the university like supporting that. It's actually kind of touching in a lot of ways. There's a lot of stories about like Concordia administrators being like, "Oh, what the hell are you guys doing over there?" And they're like, "Come over and see what we're all about." And they're like, "Holy crap, y'all do so much work." Yes, have access to the freight elevator. But going to like the garden projects, I feel like especially this year, as far as like the Concordia garden groups go, I'm feeling very excited about like all the communication we've had amongst ourselves, like the People's Potato Garden, Cultivation, Mind Heart Mouth, the pollinator group, I forget their name, like ABC Compost, Sankofa, Hamidu Horticultural, like we're all trying to share as many resources amongst each other as we can. And like, yeah, I feel like it is definitely part of the ethos of like gardening and farming in general, because it's like you put so much work into producing food that you don't want it to go to waste, and like therefore you like try to find ways to distribute like all like all this food that like you've poured your heart and soul into, and you like want to make sure that other people are successful as well. But as far as like Mm, like, sorry, I kind of lost the plot there. Like, uh, uh, like I'm really heartened to see like the inter garden group like communication and mutual aid that is happening. It's something that happened like more informally in the past, but like we've been taking means to um just like increase like share like pooling our resources. um uh, Sorry. Sorry, can someone else
Yeah,
follow
no,
up on this?
I think that's all right. I mean, I don't know if anyone else would want to kind of touch on, because I know to a certain extent you've perhaps collaborated with each other. So I don't know if you want to maybe extrapolate on any of that.
Yeah, when I started Mind Heart Mouth, like I didn't really know even that this garden was People's Potato, which is right across basically the like I don't know 50 meters away, maybe not even. Cultivation wasn't there yet, and it was City Farm School then that was there, right? And that summer, they for some reason they were not so active. That 2019 year. So it was quite isolated to be there. And there was also this odd notion that I'm occupying space on the university campus. And the way it happened, it unfolded. We were doing a greening, planting tree projects. I was part of this greening group. And the people in the greening project were quite excited about having a vegetable garden that was a research project, as well as, you know, the People's Potato and the City Farm School. And we kind of walked the campus grounds and thought like the space where Mind Heart Mouth is right now, oh, that would be a perfect space because we have full sun all day. But that first summer, I was kind of feeling a little disconnected. I didn't know anyone from People's Potato. I did not know people from City Farm School. So there was, it was just really isolating. But I did have volunteers, but I kept wondering in my mind, is somebody from administration one day going to come and tell me like, okay, what's happening here? Like you're just like growing vegetables right here on campus. And so that kind of happened the following year when during COVID, the university closed and no one was allowed on campus. I don't know if you remember that first summer, like the university was closed. You were not even allowed to do any like research or anything on campus. So I had to ask permission, and the permission needed to come from admin somewhere, someone in admin. And so that's when they realized, hold on, there's somebody gardening, there's somebody growing food on campus. So that was difficult. And so the collaboration that's Sosa was just mentioning with the garden group now, which came since last year, so 2022. So until last year, I mean, I had by then met Sosa, Culture Action was starting, but yeah, it wasn't until last year really that we started this group, and there's a person in a position now that's taking care of the business of coordinating what we're doing and the administration. So I don't have to do that anymore, because that was a bit, it was quite stressful, because 2021, again, we didn't know if I could access campus. So yeah, so this collaboration with the multiple groups that are now part of this garden group has been a really heartwarming, and feeling like somebody's got my back. Somebody's like, I'm not the only one, and I don't have to wait for somebody to come and ask me like what I'm doing there. Like everybody knows what I'm doing. I've also had collaborations with the Hive. They come, like last summer, would come in the garden. I think this year they're doing that with Cultivation. But they would come and harvest whatever foods, that were ready to harvest for to add to their free meals. So that's one collaboration that's always been dear. Another collaboration was, I would not want to go unnoticed, was the facilities. That first year I got a Sustainability Action Research Award. That's how I started. But the guys from facilities that year were basically the ones who built those first beds. So yeah, they were, and even like if I had to go away for 1 week and I was very nervous, I asked them, could they water the garden, and they did that. So they were definitely that first year, second, third year essential to, and they were supportive, like they were friendly. And so that was, for me, like in terms of having support in the university, that was incredible. And yeah, the garden group now. Did that answer the question? I'm like rambling now. Did you want to add?
Yes, I think you definitely answered the question. Caleb, please, if you have anything to add, or Hunter as well.
Sure, I could add a bit. Am I muted there, or you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah, something that Sosa said really stood out to me was just the needing to collaborate for how much work gets put into food, and how laborious food is. And like at Frigo, we've seen over the past few years just all these different circumstances, like so many more people in need of affordable food, but it's getting harder and harder to ethically source it. Like throughout the pandemic, a lot of the small time wholesalers that we got our stuff from, and the small time producers, like went under and did not come back. A lot of more things have become like conglomerated into bigger and bigger things, and it's just like increasingly difficult to access food in a way that is ethical. And I think, yeah, like coming together in labor is something we keep coming back to, as like, well, that's something that we have that we can do. So like for us, we're starting to think more about, okay, maybe we need to have, like, we do workshops, but maybe we need to do more workshops that have a secondary purpose of like everybody there is learning about canning, but we're all doing some canning while we're there. And then if you're doing it with, 10 or 20 people, you can do so much more than you could do by yourself. So trying to make different ways that we can work together, and then that could be stuff that we sell in our store cheaper than we were able to order it from a wholesaler for. So yeah, I think it's crucial, especially for food. And we've done a lot with Potato over the years to support each other. They always support us and donating food for our events, different things like that. Also, like when we worked around the city farm school area, and I work a little bit on the herb garden that's near there too, people in the neighborhood just want to help and they'll walk up and start talking to you. And then you're like, okay, you live in the neighborhood? Great. Can you come weed here? Or can you come do this or that? And getting people involved, they want to help more and more. We had a lot of people volunteer through the garden that started to volunteer at Frigo Vera downtown later to help like giving out the food and stuff like that. So getting as many people involved as you can is great. Also trying to, you don't have to invent the wheel every time. There's groups that are doing similar things. So you can maybe not try and invent the same thing, but see how to support theirs or see how what could be a gap in what they are offering that you could offer, or how could it be done together in a way. So that's another thing to think about too. I'll stop there.
Thanks so much for that, Hunter. Do you have something you wanted to add, Caleb?
Yeah, I think it's great that you use the word mutual aid in the question, because there is, as you were saying, Sosa, there's a lot of value in having the formal meetings, I think, and like having, or as you were saying, having somebody there whose job it is to coordinate those meetings. The Concordia Food Coalition recently has started hosting large food group assemblies that bring together, I don't know, like 30, 40 plus people involved in all kinds of different food groups together. A lot of it, though, is like responding to people's texts, is chatting when we see each other at the garden, is building personal relationships and trying to be there for each other when we need each other. Like the other day, I was really struggling with an irrigation line that had a lot of leaks in it, and Sosa walked up and turns out had, you know, the parts that were needed to fix that. And, you know, we just, being in contact with people, I think, is really, really useful. And taking the time to pick up people's calls and just like also chat about things that aren't purely collaboration is really simple, but really important. And I've learned a lot personally and struggled a lot with getting more comfortable doing that, because I sometimes feel like I have things to do and this is a waste of time, but it is very much not a waste of time. And I appreciate being able to learn that over the last little bit. In terms of partnerships in the university as well, you know, there are partnerships between all of our groups. The garden groups committee largely formed out of needing to push back against the university because of things they were trying to do with the garden spaces. And so a lot of these, or as you were saying, needing to form partnerships when you had the rough period in COVID, there are certain kinds of partnerships that the university views as more and less legitimate. Having Mohammed and Eric, who are both professors who both have PhDs on our team, makes it so much easier to talk to the university. You know, they can call up administrators and people will listen to them in a way that they will never listen to any of us, which is really bad, obviously. But since that's the way it is, like, something that we've been doing is having those people who have that legitimacy make a bit of an in, and then transferring communication and looping other people in, so that the power doesn't rest purely in their hands. And being clear about, yeah, like when we're talking with admin, even though it's certain people that they'll listen to, like there can be active effort to redistribute that, and then, you know, that comes into, for beginning projects, I think forming some kind of a relationship with a professor is super valuable. Because it gives you that kind of in, and it gives you access, I don't know, to the Living Labs funding stream, which is a small thing, but something that is very underutilized. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, go on, Sosa.
I wanted to add, like, based on like what Hunter and Caleb were saying, like, yeah, there's been a lot of collaboration within Concordia, and I feel like a general goal that I have for like the potato garden project and like its participation in the garden advocacy group is to go outside of the Concordia bubble. I think that's very important, but also that, like, harping again on mutual aid, like, we are all like anti-capitalist organizations, and capitalism, like, the principal driving force is like isolation and like atomization of like individuals. And you know, like the world is on fire, literally or not, and none of us are gonna make it out alive, but we can make like our exit less painful by working together. And those are skills that are like ultimately, you know, it doesn't really matter if you know how to like solder something or like you know how to like use a fresher. What's more important is being able to be in community with each other, which is a lot more difficult than we give it credence to. Like, so yeah, like following up on what Caleb was saying, like the most important work. I mean, like you can't really fight capitalism if you're starving. So food is important, but an equally important skill is just being able to relate to other people and work together. That's a very important thing.
Yeah, going off that, thank you for that, Susan. Very important in all our work, I think. But it's also like we're in a university and where we're talking about sustainability a lot. And I often see that people talk about sustainability, about, electricity and about various things, but we forget that one of the big part of sustainability is the community, and that you could have all these like these items that, oh yeah, this is, we're working with in sustainable ways, but if you don't count the people, you don't have a sustainable system. You have sustainable items, but you don't have a system that is sustainable. And I think that, this is part of our work, is like bringing in the community together. And I think that students in engineering and like you get students from all kinds of departments, right? So this is the experiential learning of sustainability, like that I think to me, that brings it together. I think like this kind of work is part of that, I think. It makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, there were just so many points there that were really awesome and things that I want to touch on. I mean, Caleb, what you brought in about, I was going to ask a question about, partnerships and working with other organizations. Like there are natural links that happen, right? You're all generally like-minded organizations. You're working in similar spaces. So of course, when you see each other in spaces, there's that natural community and the informal connections that are made, right? And all of that when it's supported as well, or when you get the opportunity to kind of formalize those through these like gardening groups or the gardening committee, as you mentioned, that in a space like a university setting, it gives a lot more legitimacy, right? And especially, you touched on the idea of having faculty and or staff, people in facilities. I wanted to touch exactly on that because these partnerships, they're a little more natural with each other, but when they're a lot harder to carve out in the university and with these like long-standing organizations that, or not organizations, but longstanding departments within the university that might be a little bit slower to respond, slower to pivot to the needs of the population, of the student body. So that was just really, really great that you all touched on that and the importance of that too. So in terms of like, I wanted to touch as well, kind of, because we are coming from different perspectives. Each of the organizations is coming kind of from a different perspective, right? The People's Potato and the Frigo Vert are both fee levy organizations like the Sustainability Action Fund. So they have an operating budget that allows them year to year to have relatively stable funding, right? Mind, Heart, Mouth, Co-op Cultivation have had to carve, I mean, they're newer organizations, newer projects. So they've had to kind of carve out that financial sustainability, I guess, for lack of a better term. If you could maybe just touch on a little bit kind of what Caleb was talking about how maybe like, I guess, Hunter and Sosa talking about how has liaising and getting support or not, if you're not getting the support, please let's highlight that too, because this is a spot to do that. How have Le Frigo Vert and People's Potato as fee levy organizations, as registered organizations with Quebec, how is the relationship with university been different compared to, say, Andrea or Caleb and the rest of the Cultivation team with the university and getting that support? You mentioned a little bit about faculty and staff, but I would love to hear from Sosa and Hunter about how those relationships have worked, not worked, and what kind of the future holds for them.
You want to go ahead, Sosa?
Yeah, so the potato, like our relationship with the university is generally positive. Like we like over the years, as the potato has become like more of an entrenched like part of Concordia campus, administration has been like more willing to like provide resources. Like our previous kitchen space was an empty kitchen space that I think like Sodexo or Airmark, I don't even, they're all essentially one company, who cares? But like they left empty, and like the potato made the request of using that space and the administration granted it. And when there were renovations, we had negotiations with the university to guarantee our continued existence. On the 7th floor, they built us a kitchen space. Like we work a lot with the CSU. They provide a lot of like support for administrative stuff, like facilities provides a lot of support. So the potato is incredibly fortunate, though I feel like a lot of the people that we had established relationships with in the past have been moving on. So we've been running into kind of like some headaches with the administration, like particularly around like the freight elevator. But like ultimately, I do feel like we have had a positive relationship with the university, which I don't know what it is in the water, but I just think of like the McGill analog for the People's Potato Midnight Kitchen, and how they have been struggling to stay alive because of interference from like both the university administration and their student union. And yeah, it boggles the mind. So, hashtag blessed. Still kind of salty about the freight elevator thing, but ultimately, like we're pretty well off in our relationship with the university. And the way like we operate, we're still an independent entity. So I feel like that is also a good thing. Did that answer the question at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. The question is really to gain that perspective, like the differing perspectives that like Hunter and Sosa may have as members of fee levy groups versus Caleb and Andrea, who are not part of fee levy groups, have had to apply. I mean, all four of you here have had to apply for funding at some point or another, but just kind of that main difference, like how those perspectives have affected the relationship specifically with folks at the university who have the capacity, power to help, harm, or just, keep projects going, at a stable kind of line. Yeah. So I don't know if Hunter, if you have anything else that you'd want to offer from that perspective.
Yeah, I think I'll explain because it could be kind of interesting for people to hear. Like, we have a pretty different relationship with the university. We are not on campus. We're like a off-campus organization. So this has its like advantages and its disadvantages, I think, but the goal and the reasoning behind it, or like some of the big ones, are to be autonomous from the university, so that the university can't control us. Has a lot of advantages, like being able to speak against the university publicly, or not be beholden to the university being able to control our political messaging or action or anything like that. And it's kind of a unique position to be in as a fee levy group, I think, to not be getting your funding from the government or a corporation. Like you have so much more autonomy than most other organizations. So we purposefully, I guess, try to work with that. We do have a lot of like support within the university. Like we are working with some university administration on food security. We've worked with the dean of students more, especially from the pandemic, about food issues. We have supportive staff, and we have like the networks of fee levies that we work with. But like many times, if we try to contact the university, they just don't reply to us, and we're sort of, I guess, like an outsider for better and for worse. But we also have, like, we rely quite heavily on, like, students are automatically members, but if you're not a student, you can purchase a membership. So we have a lot of community membership that supports us too, because we get people who are active when they're students, but they only stay for a couple of years and then they leave. So we have a lot of like community support that's been with us, you know, almost all of our 30 years too. So they support us financially, they support us in other ways too, but that makes us more stable because we have different ways that we get our funding, not just one source. But yeah, that's how we have done it and why and such. And we also work with the Concordia Student Union and come on campus to do things, but like, yeah, there's different advantages as well as far as like accessibility for us. Like we, for example, everyone was locked out of their places during the pandemic, but the university couldn't tell us to not go to our own place. So we remained operational. We changed how we operated, but we worked like offering food baskets to students the entire pandemic, and they would come to our front door and pick up food, and we were often the only personal contact they had at all, like during those months, and it would be once a week they contacted us. So that was like a pretty strong example of how it's been to our advantage to not be in the university or in the university's control. But also, like, people have to show ID to access the university often, so that's a barrier that some people are not able to have ID, or they don't have ID. We want to be a space, because we're an anti-poverty organization, where poor people feel comfortable to go, and I think a lot of poor people maybe don't feel comfortable going into a university. So but yeah, we have to pay so much money in rent, and we have evil landlords. So it's got its pluses and its minuses.
Thanks for that, Hunter. Andrea, Caleb, do either of you have anything you'd want to add regarding university relationships, how that you've navigated that, given your perspective or your project's perspective? It could be for funding, but I think also like support, and especially in the context of projects that are using physical space on campus, is the actual physical space. So like acquiring space, holding on to space, contracts, do they exist? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, the university is great because there are so many resources available for the taking if you have a student card and a student number, and if you have a professor number. But it is also horrible in very many ways because they really, really do their best to limit the access to those resources to people who have student numbers. Like I got an email 2 days ago from a very top administrator who was saying, like, if this is in any way used for anything that will be done, that will be related to off-campus activities, like that is going to be a massive issue, which is very hilarious for an organization that is supposed to be building relationships with the community around it, and that is in the middle of a thriving city and is not an island that's completely isolated, and should not be aiming to be an island that's completely isolated, that keeps all of the privilege within its walls. It's one thing. Also, there are a lot of like time barriers to accessing the resources. The amount of just back and forth with admin, particularly around space, and the amount of little nitty-gritty details. I mean, one of you were talking about the sustainability action plans and the way they define those goals, Andrea. And you have to learn how to speak that language, which is not an anti-capitalist language, which is not an anti-colonialist language. And then they define how groups can access those resources based on your ability to like meet those very little narrow definitions of all of these things. And so, yeah, what we're trying to do is figure out a way to use the university resources that we can access because we have, a lot of us learned how to speak that language and have student numbers and have PhDs and can, then mobilize those resources to build community food sovereignty, to work with partners beyond the university. That's kind of the goal and the vision. That's really hard in practice, and we're struggling with it, to be completely honest, because there are all of these barriers, particularly around university space. Like, people can come into the space at any point and say, like, this is not up to this code. And, they've never told us the code before, of course, but there are very specific things, or things can set people off at the drop of a hat. If you speak out politically, it does damage your ability to access, to be nice, to get nice treats from them and to get funding from them. So yeah, I don't know how to. There's a lot of complications, but there are also student organizations. And Concordia community organizations like SAF, like the student union, that are lower barrier, that still have barriers for sure, but that aren't the same as relating with the admin. Yeah, I guess it's all about like finding people who know how to navigate those complicated systems, and then the people who have learned that, getting better at sharing that with more people. Is really what we need to work on, I think, as food projects and as other projects around the university.
I think there's always been struggles or tensions between in every business between sales and marketing, and so I've come to realize that the university is a place of education, but it's also a business. And I think I've learned that with, I guess, the campus master plan, mainly when the event that Caleb's is like the garden group was created as a pushback against some of the university's administration, I guess, wanting to renovate a campus and saying, well, we could move those gardens, right? Like, it needs to be pretty, it needs to look professional. And do these gardens make it look unprofessional? We would say no. We would say the opposite. It speaks to the sustainability desire and plan of the university. So there's these, to my perception, there's these sort of silos. There's a marketing pitch that says sustainability, come to Concordia. But then there's the admin that says, oh, we need to make it pretty first and foremost. So there's these sort of silos and two schools of thoughts, I guess, within the same, and they need to work together, right? And that's part of what we're trying to do, is like to bring the university together in this sustainability word that we're using, and that we believe in, of course. But yeah, it needs to be a systematic thing, systemic. Sorry, the French. Ça doit être un système. So that was my take on this, I suppose.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a system that's hard to break into, and you kind of alluded to relationship building and knowing the right people and speaking the language. And at SAF, we're in a very, you kind of touched on us being in an interesting position where we liaise with the university, we do our best to support student-led projects, but then sometimes we are held to things that are out of our control as well with the university, in like mutual funding programs and things like that. So I definitely see that we've experienced that at SAF as well, those kind of difficulties, and especially the idea of the community, the Concordia University community, but the fact that that community inherently isn't just contained within the Concordia, within people that have valid student IDs, right? So I as a Concordia alumni, I was probably most involved at Concordia after I had already graduated. So, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who, while they're students, maybe they don't have the time, they're so focused on their studies, that are in similar situations and then find themselves like, oh shoot, I had a lot more at my disposal when I was actually a student than now when I don't have that status of being a student. So actually, before we continue on with questions, I do want to open it up a little bit here. I want to have nice back and forth. If there's anyone here who has questions specifically on what we've talked about, or want to talk about a project that they're interested in starting or have already started, and also if we can maybe this would be a good time to adjust. Yeah, it'd be nice to maybe move the seats around in a way that we're maybe more in a circle, if that's all right, if I'm not derailing this whole thing.
Is that what we're doing? I said that. As close as possible. Sure. As close as everyone's comfortable with. Conversation.
As close as people are comfortable with, sure. No, not at all. Hey everyone. Actually, yeah, so we'll move the mic around as people would like to speak. Yeah, I think that would probably be easier, just because I think it won't pick it up. Great. So yeah, you had a question. If you could just say your name.
I'm Elena, and I had there are two questions. They're somewhat related. My first question was, what is sustainability? Because I'm learning a lot about sustainability in my schooling, and so far it's not very good. It's kind of a misnomer. It kind of draws attention away from the real issues, from actual systemic change. It's often associated with sustainable development, which I think that we've learned is not good. And it's not anti-capitalist or decolonial. So I wonder, when we're chasing sustainability, it sounds like the university speaking. And the university, I think, is ideologically opposed to your organizations and what pushes you, because all of you are doing amazing work. And it sounds fantastic. Anti-colonial, anti-poverty. These are wonderful things that I support. But you come up against challenges, I think, because of resources, largely, trying to get access to resources, land, funding, people, knowledge. And it sounds like a lot of that is coming from the university. So it doesn't really sound like collaboration is possible in the long run. If you're going to achieve your dreams and pursue these, eventually you're going to be blocked by the university that doesn't really support anti-capitalism, benefits from it. It is a capitalist organization, institution of business. So I think this is something that maybe as a sociologist, I always think about the ideology. But I'm struggling with my new itty bitty baby project. I'm struggling to find a way to work within a system that doesn't really want me to succeed in supporting people, in creating relationships of mutual aid, in creating collaborations, in supporting people, offering them food, and the things that people deserve. water, food, and shelter community. So yeah, this is something that I'm struggling with. It gives me a sour taste in my mouth to beg for money to do something that I want to offer for free to people. So yeah, I want your guidance on this.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. I think a few years ago I was in my tax, well, when COVID started that first summer, I volunteered for an organization here a group here at Concordia that started a grocery project to deliver groceries to seniors that were basically not allowed to leave their homes, or that couldn't because they would put them really at risk. And so I did my tax internship in collaboration with New Hope Senior Citizens and with ACT here at Concordia. And it was, I can't even think of the word, if it was fascinating or scary or to see how there's a branch of our communities, our government, that is the community organization, which is basically, there's the healthcare and then there's community care. And community care is all up to us. Like the funding is basically the same way we're doing, is like you have to apply continuously. There's people in these community organizations whose full-time job basically is to look for funding and apply for funding. And the funding they receive is specific to certain project. You apply for a project within your organization. So problem with that is that when COVID hit, they couldn't say, oh, we have $100,000 here, let's offer services that are going to be COVID appropriate for our people. They couldn't do that because they can't move that money. They suddenly had to apply for COVID specific problems. And most organizations, like New Hope, for instance, small organizations were told, we're not worried about your clients' issues right now. Like we're going to give money to food banks. We're going to give money to the depot, to Multicaf. Somebody called these organizations a black hole of funding during that first period. So, and the conversations I did, 50 interviews with community organization workers. These workers are like us, super passionate about what they do, super passionate about helping people the same way you're expressing. But also what they're looking at, like those that work with older adults, is because they're paid so little, you don't make money working in community organizations. They make so little money that they're looking at becoming the people that they're serving, the people that are poor and that are dependent on community organizations to survive. So where am I going with this? It's just, I think the system is broken. I think the university maybe reflects, like is a reflection of that system. It's all business, it's politics. And no, it's not decolonized, and it's not, yeah, I think that's what we're fighting at the same time. I think our work, I'm the one now applying for funding, and I've been so lucky to have SAF, has had my back since the beginning, since 2019. New Hope last year was a partner in funding, but this year they couldn't support. So I had to, you scramble and you start looking, where else can I get money? There's a point in February when I'm waiting for an answer from SAF, and I'm waiting for an answer for this one, and where I'm thinking, what am I going to do if I don't get funding? What am I going to do? Am I not going to do this? And I asked myself the question. I said, of course I will. I'll find the money. There's a lot of people that depend on this project, and of course I'll find. So we're working continuously in, trying to find the money. and working with the system, I suppose, like working with, because right now, what's the alternative in this larger system? Like, it's not just here, it's in the community, right? So I personally don't see an alternative. So I'm trying to work within the system. I do the funding applications, etc., to get the money. And, a lot of these funding applications have asked me, as you just pointed out, so where's your income? How are you going to make this project sustainable, financially sustainable is the meaning of the question. And it's like, well, there's money everywhere. Why should I need to produce money? There's all these people are hungry. All these people don't have access to land. And I don't want to start selling the food. I want to give it to them. It's needed. There's a big need. So I'll keep applying for money and I'll keep so that I could run the project. So I guess it's not a solution, I suppose, to your question, but it's working within this system right now. It would be another project to turn the system over, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of like concrete advice, but I do want to say that I hear you and everything's fucked. And like ultimately, like the university is not going to like fund its complete dismantling. But I do think like in any like anti-oppressive like movement, it is like, I don't like saying working in the system, but like still getting resources from like the systems that you have access to while you are building like other ways to function. And I think that's like everyone's scrambling. It's like, because everyone needs like money to survive, even though it's fake, but it's not. Anyway, but yeah, I like that bitter taste in your mouth because it's like, it's absurd. Everything is just so absurd. And like, yeah, I just wanted to say that I hear that, and you shouldn't really have to like prove your case for like helping people survive. And yeah, I would love to know more about your project and see if there are ways that I could support it in some way. It's probably not going to be a lot, like, but sometimes just talking to people, developing relationships, like, yeah, yeah. None of this is easy. And like, I am kind of a pessimist, and I'm like, systemic change isn't going to happen until the system collapses. And when it does, we got to be ready, and we got to be ready to run out the gate. So developing skills to survive systemic collapse, I think, is very important. And just keeping yourself alive, because like, yeah, if you starve to death, you're not going to see the revolution. So that's all I have to say. Sorry.
Nothing. That was great.
To what my project is all motivated by. Do I have to speak into the microphone? So just like a really short 1 minute, I'm starting to learn how to grow a food forest from scratch, growing it and learning about it from scratch with a friend of mine. And both of our motivations was learning about deep adaptation and kind of the idea that systemic collapse is coming and that we should be thinking about the world that we want to found after that. And so I think about that, and I think about community and mutual aid, and I realized that my fear of gardening, because I kill plants, should not supersede me learning how to do it. And so this is literally why I've been trying to take this project, even though I'm a novice and I don't know what I'm doing.
You have to kill a lot of plants to become a good gardener. I will tell you straight up, I did not know anything about gardening until I started working at the People's Potato Garden. Like you kill a lot of plants, but you learn. You learn the best from your mistakes. What can I say? There's a reason why you're supposed to like seed a lot of stuff. Yeah. So do it scared. Like it's not going to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like that's the cool thing about gardening. You're like, wow, this actually doesn't have to be perfect, and it still works. So yeah. Cool. It's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I would love to know more about this project. If you have an Instagram, no, but like what we should exchange contact information. Yeah.
Hunter, did you have something? It's very loud.
Yeah,
Did you have
I
something you
had
wanted to
a
add?
few. Thank you. I had a few thoughts to share. I couldn't see who that was who spoke with the question, but I really appreciated it. Thank you. Um, it made me think about, I might be wrong about this, but I remember hearing that like when social work and the social work world started to become really big, it was a tactic to like um, stop full on radical revolution. It got a lot of people who were like protesters, who were doing radical actions. It got them into jobs where, you know, they would get fired if they broke the rules with that job. So they were easier to control, and also it was just enough aid for the population to not want to totally revolt. So I don't know, that's something I think about having worked in different social work and community fields, like how much of this is just by design to maintain the status quo. And then that's just a thought as a reflection of what you shared. But a couple of things I wanted to say. I also really recommend getting in touch with the groups. Like if you get in touch with QPerg is another group that supports a lot of radical projects outside of the university. And also get in touch with Le Frigo Vert because we would like to support that type of project. We have lots of different people who we've supported for their projects. Some of them, you know, who started it at the university doing projects and then they've been doing their business for like 10, 20 years, some different people through Frigo. So that's like some concrete things you could do to get some more support. And honestly, it took me a while. Like I didn't go to Concordia University. I didn't go to university. So it took me a while to really understand like the fee levy system and why I think it's so cool. And it's because you are separate from the university. The university cannot stop our funding in any way because we were voted in by students and we have to be voted by referendum. So it's this way that it's a very unique way that like an organization like us, we would not get government funding and we would not get university funding. And we're able to have this funding, simply like because students vote for it and maintain it. But yeah, it's allow us to like I said, directly speak against the university, to be overtly against their goals, because it's true, we are very at odds with like, you know, we're anti-institutional and it's an institution and it's a business too. So yeah, I don't know, all that to say, like fee levy groups are a way to get funding that isn't attached to government or corporations, and that's pretty unique and cool, something to explore. And I know SAF is like that too. It funds a lot of our events, like it's given donations to a lot of our anti-colonial week, but that's something we do with like groups and community people all over the city year after year. So it's like partly student funded, partly community driven, but the university has no say in it. If they don't like it, there's nothing they can do about it. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
You have something you want to add, Caleb? Go for it, please.
I also Cult of Action also struggles with exactly the same question. I think we all do. Sustainability, I think, is just a language that we can speak to get resources from the people who want to give resources for sustainability related things. I don't think all that hard about it personally. I think the balance between, as both of you are saying, working within the system to try to get the resources that can allow us to move beyond what's currently existing, but then also like you get tied into, by doing that, like you slowly get more and more, it shapes you in ways that you don't necessarily see coming, or it takes a question like the one you asked to kind of snap you out of it and see what's going on. I think that like holding each other accountable to trying to milk those resources out from the organizations that say that use sustainability rhetoric, and milk resources out from the university without abandoning our values is important. I think that alone we can, if we're trying to do it alone, we can get wrapped up in it. But yeah, I also struggle with that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's incredibly difficult to navigate, and again, even ourselves, like the SAF, when we were in a position where we can like safely push the university in some ways that maybe other organizations or other projects wouldn't have, without like being more nervous of like, well, will they shut us down, or is this going to prickle the wrong people? But even at that, we come up with the same barriers, because the projects that I've seen that are able to make some small systemic changes are the ones that kind of just create what they're looking to create with the support they're able to have, and they demonstrate an example. Because the university, when you're speaking about projects, they always talk about like scalability. How is this going to be operational at the university level is like the language, right? How are we going to do this all bigger? How are we going to do this so that it reaches everyone? So, and I know a lot of projects were like, well, it's not about being bigger. It's about having a deeper impact. It's about, reaching the people that we want to reach and helping the people that we want to help. So, I mean, I have seen that projects that can just do what they're trying to do at a small scale and demonstrate that scalability to the university, have the right connections and the right, staff and faculty and other people or organizations in their corner, are the ones that tend to chip away at that cookie cutter sustainability, I guess, in without, I don't really have a better way of putting it. Because we see as well with, for example, our Living Lab funding program. This is a partnership with the university. It enabled us to get more funds towards longer term projects. But and this program is tied to the sustainability action plans that were created 4 years ago, I think, at this point. Well, they were kind of dreamt up with committees that had a lot of representation, not enough. But so a lot of these targets and goals aren't as relevant now as they were in the moment they were created. So these like crucial points of where the university starts kind of talking about their long-term strategies, and where one long-term strategy ends and the opportunity for a new long-term strategy begins or is being talked about, those are usually really good opportunities for people and organizations who, in that time that the directions are not meeting the needs, to really speak up and say, this is where we can push the university on making some more changes in like the strategic language. But it's definitely not easy, because a lot of times people just don't get a seat at the table that should. Yeah. Sorry, did you have something you wanted to add?
I want to talk about the deep adaptation. Like, I think all our work, if you Jem Bendel's white paper speaks about resilience and relinquishing, and as you said, like, work towards a world for after. And I think, for me anyways, and I think for all of us, is teaching people to grow food is part of that. It's a huge part of that. So I think that, yeah, it's all part of our work, I think. And you shouldn't give up, because sometimes it's difficult, and it's the system makes it really like feel like, why? But yeah, you don't give up. Just, join the group.
Does anyone else have any other questions or things? Yeah. Microphone.
Well, thank you very much for your insights so far. I just wanted to ask two questions, but the main question is, you've talked about community, about building relationships and such, and I'm curious if any of your groups have worked with, collaborated with the engineering department or engineering students at Concordia University, or any university really, and specifically for capstone projects, that is, final year engineering students get to do a sort of a 2-semester capstone project, and I'm just sort of curious if you've ever had that type of collaboration or not. Yeah, and then the second one is just to echo the sentiments. It's really hard to create an agricultural project. I'm interested, but I have no idea how to start. So if you could offer some tips on that too, I'd be grateful. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know if anybody else, like we were not directly collaborating with a capstone project, but there are 2 capstone projects that have like kind of been around the greenhouse and that we've been chatting with in an informal way about setting up what they're doing. I don't totally understand how the process works. I think it's cool, like something that I noticed about the 2 projects that we were working with is that it was very much like the people came in and they made a solution without a ton of consultation or communication. And I don't want to generalize that in any way. So I'm really excited that like you're here and asking about and trying to figure out how to make the projects more integrated with things that are already going on. There are a lot of small urban agriculture projects that need help with irrigation. And like we have some more of that infrastructure where we are, but there are a lot of places that we go to that don't have any of that, that need a lot of help with it. So I think that could be an exciting area for capstone projects. And also like we get 3 to a dozen emails every week from student groups that want to do some kind of project in collaboration with us, which is awesome. But like managing that communication is really hard. It takes a lot of time. Looks really good for the university that we are not getting compensated for in any way. And some projects are really wonderful and help so much, and some projects like fizzle out because people have other things on their plate, which is totally reasonable. So I don't know. I think that's an area that we can figure out more, is how do student projects work with these groups in a more collaborative and equal way? And could there be some kind of like middle person for that process?
Did you?
Yeah, I can speak to the potato experience. Like we do like working with students, and we have had folks from the engineering department like come with project requests, capstone project requests, but much like Caleb was saying, it was often something that wasn't relevant to our situation. Like I feel like in the recent past, there were engineers from the aerospace department who wanted to work with us, and we were like, we have no idea how the potato and space are related, but thank you for asking. It's really depending on like the relevance of the given project, like, yeah, and it's not something that like I like is banned. It's just difficult, because it's a lot of work, period, on both our sides. But as far as starting a project goes, like, where would you like to start your project? Have you looked into projects in your local area, like expanding them, or do you want to start like something completely new? Like, what, like, these are questions to ask. Like, are you looking to like start more of like a community garden? The other person was talking about a food forest. Are you like looking into that, or like what kind of plants? Like, essentially, a thing I love about gardening is that I'm like, damn, I really want blueberries. Blueberries are the shit. How do I grow blueberries? Like, and just spending hours on Google, just like figuring out like what is something that appeals to you about agriculture, and then just like following that glimmer, you know? But also seeing like what resources are available to you currently. Like, I don't know if it was Hunter, but like let's stop reinventing the wheel. Like, there is a chance that there are people who have started a project that needs support to keep it going. And maybe not, but just like getting the lay of the land, quote unquote, I think is like the first step for any agriculture project.
Yeah.
To that point, oh, sorry, Hunter, did you?
Go ahead.
Um, okay. I was just going to suggest volunteering in any of these projects is probably, to my sense, a good way to better understand where you stand about running an agricultural project. Like understanding the work that's involved. Like, for instance, I have no experience with the capstone projects, but I get students from pretty much every department at the university. And sometimes it's an organic garden, and sometimes people, I've had students say, what do you mean? I'm going to sit there for an hour looking under leaves for insects because there's such a thing as leaf miners. And they're like, I can't be wasting my time. Like, we're accustomed to electronics and things going fast. It's a different temporality growing food. You slow down like to nature's time. And so, yeah, it's just to better understand that, I think you need like volunteering, for me, to my sense, would be a good place to start in any of these gardens.
Hunter? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I would echo the fact, like, we also have a lot of different students, like, contacting us, sometimes maybe up to like, I don't know, 20 students in a week with different projects. And sometimes it goes well, but it's tough because more often than not, we put in a lot of work and energy, and then they kind of bail. They move on to other things. They're too busy. The timing is difficult. A lot of times they'll just find out about something pretty last minute and want to collaborate with us, but it's like we do our planning, much further in advance, and sometimes there's just not the capacity to work with the student's schedule and setups and stuff. But we have worked with a few different groups, like one group over the years that started off Concordia students. They made 3D printers that hydroponically grow vegetables, and then they have like a website that different people can trade their vegetables for free and stuff. And different projects like that that make sense with what we do. Like we sold their greens for a while and stuff like that. has worked. So I think, yeah, trying to see, like people were saying, exactly what's in need, how you could help, versus trying to come with an outside opinion about what could be helpful, especially to ask people like who are doing the work what they would want. And I think especially it's good to get, like people are saying, like real experience with growing food and preparing food, because it's one thing in theory and then it's another thing to be toiling away in the dirt like hours on end. And a lot of times the people who are doing that are having like no say at all in all of these talks. So it's good to get that experience yourself and to talk with people who, you know, have been doing it for a long time. They probably have a lot of ideas of what could be most helpfully addressed and things like that. So yeah.
Thanks so much for that, Hunter. Did you have a question?
Hi, I'm the project coordinator at SAF. I wanted to touch on the capstone because we do fund, we have funded previously, and we still do fund capstone projects sometimes. And some of the few that we've funded actually do are good examples, I think, of this. Especially because capstone projects have a limited time, which speaks to the struggle of students having, and they're tied to an academic timeline in which they need to deliver something. And sometimes that doesn't really work with the timeline of the people who are doing the work, who have a different timeline. But recently we're starting to see a bit more. This is, I wouldn't say on the food side of things, we're not seeing that yet, but on waste, we've certainly recently funded, for example, there's a textile shredder students capstone project. They're working with Sucker. So that is out of a need. There are no textile shredders in Montreal. And Sucker is already doing, the Center for Creative Use is already doing this kind of work. And so it made sense for there to be students working on that particular need. A similar one as well as the FDM printer that we've also recently funded, capstone project that works directly with Concordia Precious Plastic to create a machine that recycles the 3D waste that's coming out of Concordia Precious Plastic. So that's a very particular need that they've been able to identify through consulting with these groups and seeing, well, how can we create engineering tools that are actually really helpful and relevant especially given the short period of time, and then discussing, well, once the students are done with the project, who's going to maintain it, how much does it take to maintain. So I think these we're seeing it more on the waste side of things. It would be really beautiful to see it on food and other type of work. But yeah, like I think it's important, as what Hunter said, like speak with the groups, cater a very small task that is really helpful to people, and that there's a way to maintain it once the students are gone.
Yeah, go for it, Caleb.
Okay, all farmers are also inventors, but we don't know how to actually make it happen. Ideas, a device that carries multiple seed trays multiple trays of seedlings at once, like very many, ideally. Also, a system for recycling wastewater from outdoor spray down stations. So you're like spraying down bunches of carrots. How could that be caught and then diverted into the field? That's fairly simple, but it's like in a certain site, that would be an extremely useful thing to figure out how to do. I had like 5 more of them when I was thinking of this list just now, but they're losing me. An weeding machine, that's a big one. Some kind of weeding robot. I know they exist, but cheaper and faster and. Okay.
They're interested to know what people actually want.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said if you're interested, we can put you in touch with the capstone committee, because they are actually they want to know what people need, what kind of projects people need.
Yeah, question. Oh, just a second. For anyone who's back there, please, if you'd like to come up a bit closer, we invite you.
My name is Olga. I'm European. Long time I'm Canadian. I'm enjoying my organic food. I had garden by community of Hotel de Ville for 25 years. And downtown, Rue de la Montagne and George William. I'm enjoying gardening. They're good people. And food, what we had, we help to the other association by the group, giving to people to serve them to enjoy our fresh organic food. I'm volunteering, enjoying volunteering in People Potato in Concordia for over 20 years. I know I serve the student food. Now the group is coming before 200. Now it's double, 400 students. I serve them food, organic, no meat, no other, including only People Potato serving. We had a good team, very friendly, fresh to work with them. I'm enjoying by myself preparing my fresh food. They can stay for all winter. I had parsley, I had tomato, potato is not allowed. Tomato, garlic special. I prepare have them all winter. How? I do them. Garlic need to be in cold place for good time and fresh. The parcel, what I'm enjoying, I preparing. I wash them well, I dry them, and I take the plate, I freeze them for 10, 15 minutes. When they're frozen, I take the plastic bag or the freezer, fill them, close, they stay fresh. Still I have them till June. I'm enjoying my life, but I had a big major accident, but they keep me on. That's why I'm enjoying Concordia. I cannot go for 5 days to work, but I'm working 2 days a week. Now we close till September. I just waiting kitchen to be open and be with them. Thank you very much. If it's good, it's very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Olga.
Yeah, my question is also about two aspects of your talk. One is about the master plan that you talk and how the new master plan is pushing away the garden or whatever active things or messy things is happening. I noticed that R-Type also has this problem that it was at first in the transitional space and university wanted to have a enclosed space that people don't see the messy space. And we can connect it to the definition of something beautiful and this image of sustainability and experience of sustainability. We have also this issue in the governing public space, that how much citizens are active in the public space or passive consumers of public space. And thinking about the image of Concordia, that's while you come and you can experience something and make something called messy, but you feel good about it and you share it with other people, or you just see a beautiful object and you don't know the background of that object, whether this object was built with a happy labor or not happy labor, not having good social, economical security. All of those, I was just thinking about the image of something beautiful, and it's a war of images in the social media now. My LinkedIn profile is much more important than my body and what I'm doing. And I noticed that most of the social works are so embodied, active, experiential. On the other hand, that greenwash thing is focused on just the image. And the other question was about that it's almost my fourth year in Concordia, and during and at this fourth year, I just noticed that there are lots of resources, community resources, fundings, student groups. But one problem is that most of the even Concordia members, they know these resources at the end. There is a problem of informational justice. And the other thing is that as you talk about inventing the wheel or reinventing the wheel, there are lots of aligned projects, but they don't know each other. I'm part of the Frigowert board, and we also talk about how we can align these even available resources for community work that people don't know each other. For example, one initiative has a space, but they don't have funding. One initiative have some people with work hours, but they don't have an idea how we can find a mediatory space that these available resources meets each other at the right time and space.
About the beauty or the design. So part of my research is working on the design of the garden, and one of the inspiration was this artist whose name is Fritz Haag. Do you know him? So what Fritz Haag's main project was about 15, 20 years ago, basically declared war on the front lawn. So on grass lawn that, we all idolize, not all we, but as a society, people seem to idolize their grass lawn. And like he says, like it's a space of land that is so idolized, like we don't walk on, or like the front lawn specifically, like people don't like people walking on their front lawn or touching it, or it needs to be perfect. They'll put these dollar store little fences that look really awful to prevent people from accessing their beautiful lawns. So what he did basically was to he proposed in working with a museum for people to plant vegetables, landscape their front lawn with vegetable producing plants. So it took off, and it was a big inspiration in the garden. So when I say like they don't want a messy space, one of the reasons, and I work really hard at that, is that this Mind, Heart, Mouth is garden beds, but there's an aesthetic aspect to it. I work with sensory design aspects, so it should be I try to make it an immersive space where people could experience through senses, like visual, not just visual, but the smell, the touching, and people do touch plenty, right? So there's a lot of theft that happens. But also the garden is in a very public space of the campus. And the amount of people that tell me that they go out of their way to pass through the gardens on campus. So yes, there's the university that says that it should be new buildings and new this, but the community around the campus is excited. Like people, like over the past few weeks I've been in the garden, people are like coming to tell me specifically, I'm so excited that you guys are starting again. Like it's such a pleasure. Like for me, every morning and every night, like we go for our walks, just to walk through the gardens, like whether it's near, like they love to look at what Cultivation is doing. People love, like students, staff, neighborhood, everybody. So when I hear administrations say that, like whatever the campus plan that their goal is, those gardens are appreciated by everyone. So I just want to answer that. Did you want to add something, Sosa?
Yeah, it was kind of funny when they introduced the master plan. And I remember like sitting in that Zoom meeting, like losing my mind because they're like, we're going to increase green space on campus by like such and such percent, by like raising your gardens that have been there for like 20 years and moving them like in a completely different direction. And it was like really just, yeah, it was, oof. That was a moment where I was like, yeah, oh, yeah, greenwashing. But like, there has been improvement in the master plan, I think, like through like the group advocacy, like the internal advocacy, and also like the university is like trying to boost its image, so they like have an urban agriculture like liaison, and like currently it's like Jackie Martin, who used to like run the greenhouse and like City Farm School, and I think that she's been doing a lot of advocacy since starting in that position. Because I was really, really scared they were just gonna bulldoze everything, and now it's like, except for the medicinal garden, everything seems safe. So that's the next fight. But improvements have been made. And I feel like you had like a second question that I wanted to speak on. But Caleb, did you want to speak, Hunter?
Nope.
I think the second question was about like spreading information about this, about resources on campus.
Well, I feel
Because I have something to say. You can take it after. Yeah, I think it's a big issue because the university is so big. I mean, I sometimes speak to some people and I'm saying, of course, you know about this greening committee, like the real greening, not the greenwashing ones. But, and they're like, oh, no, I don't know this person. And I'm always baffled because it's so centered to what we do, right? So there's a lot of departments at the university that don't know SAF. Like they don't know the work that they're doing. They don't know that there are gardens at the Loyola campus. There's a lot of students that have never been at Loyola because their courses are John Molson or wherever, political science. And yes, but there is the sustainability group that is promoting sustainability ambassadors. There's different programs that are trying to reach students, but and they're working really hard and doing fantastic work. But yeah, it is a problem that the university, we need to be more present, I think. There needs to be more of every field should know, because they all talk about experiential learning. That's the buzzword, right? Sustainability and experiential learning is how to sell a university right now. And so, but then you need to connect sorry. I saw that look.
No, it was not about you. It was not about you at all. It's just we've experienced how even sometimes using sustainability and experiential learning can only go so far.
Yes, because it needs to be acted upon, is what Caleb was saying at, coming full circle, is where can you do all of that is not reading about sustainability in your course, that is not just in books or online, where sustainability, or agriculture, the experiential learning is that. It is experiential learning. You need to get your hands dirty. And so there's no other way to go about it as far as I think. I'm only going to speak for myself, but as far as I'm concerned, like every department, when they talk about experiential learning, it can't just be, there's great co-op programs, right? So that is also experiential learning, where if you're an engineer, you could go and get a job and actually get experience in it. But if you're talking about either sustainability or regenerative practices, you need to learn like the other parts of the system and what needs to be done and what makes the system work as a whole. And again, I go back to the community part, and like that's, to me, that's where it begins. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we just kind of said, oh, it's so much work for all these students to have their projects. But that really is, so many wonderful professors are including, experiential learning projects in their courses as a major piece of the coursework. And that makes a huge difference in educational experiences. I've been lucky enough to be in a couple of those classes that force you to go out there and learn what resources are around. There's a class in our program that is where you have to put on a panel, like it's a full year course, learn about an issue, find out who are key players in the field, frame it in a certain way, organize a panel at Concordia. You have to do that. You need to make all kinds of connections. And so like there's the experiential learning, but I think we could get a little bit more intentional about what experiential how we can be more effective with that. I think that obviously paid internships are really important, and maybe doing that earlier in most course programs. Normally it's kind of a thing near the end. Maybe doing that at the beginning of a lot of course of programs would be useful, or having these like targeted experiential learning projects that all the panelists that are on those panels are paid, and then that forces people to learn how to apply for funding. And so, how can we make these really valuable experiential learning processes where we need to form connections and then also compensate community groups for how they're involved in it? It's something that could be developed more, I think.
Something that I wanted to speak on was which everyone's been speaking on, but further developing community, because there are so many cool things happening all the time. And because of the university space, sometimes projects just exist for a microsecond that could have been continued had that knowledge been transferred. But if you are not in the know, you lose that opportunity. And it just makes me think overall, it's something that I've been really just yeah, we got to get better at this at the potato. We really do. But I'm just for gardening, for food, for sorry, I'm losing the food security. There you go. That's not my job. But something that I do find recent things that have been happening that Caleb was speaking about was the CFC having those regular meetings happening again. And yeah, just it is of the utmost importance to develop relationships with people in your field, quote unquote. And I feel with the pandemic, it's been difficult because it's communication is often just so much more effective face to face than it is over email. We always tell people to email the potato, and then we lose the email. Emails are terrible, sorry. But yeah, just continuing to develop those relationships. And yeah, I think that's really just such critical work, and just continuing the communication and just showing up. I should hang out at the Frigo more often, I should go hang out at Mine Hard Mouth. I should just be jabbing at jibber jabbing at everyone about everything all the time. That's my story. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you have a question, please.
I read many years ago about a chef visiting People's Potato and training students. Rich Francis, he's an indigenous chef who was in Top Chef. It was some time ago. And I was pretty impressed by that. I was wondering if you've done any more initiatives like that of bringing chefs in. And just on the side of that, I just want to mention that there's this restaurant and hotel school just 2 blocks away from here where they train chefs and waiters and wine stewards that could be, a group of people, students, as well as the staff and administration to build bridges with and create something with. So there you go. I was just wondering about if you brought any more chefs in to work with students at the People's Potato or anything like that.
We haven't since I started working there in 2015, but I still feel like it's an educational space. Like our workshops are often people from the community as opposed to like professional chefs, but that might be an aspect to pursue in the future. Having worked in kitchens like my entire adult life, like there are a lot of techniques that you don't necessarily need a head chef to show you. But that is an interesting idea of like looking into the cooking school for, I don't know, like y'all want to volunteer or something, but oftentimes cooking schools take place like they're like 9 to 5 while we're in operation. So it might not be the best, but thank you for that bit of potato knowledge, because I'm gonna have to look that up. That sounds lit. Yeah. I hope that answered your question.
I just thought it was like people there who could be resource people or just people to have conversations with about food, and food production. That's all.
Yeah, they came by and toured our garden last year, and it's cool too, because then you get like young chefs thinking about sourcing locally too.
Yeah, before someone want to answer, because I want to say is a little bit long. Yeah, it's okay. Okay. Nice to meet you. My name is Wara. I am from Bolivia. I have living in Montreal since many years. So I am a student in social work. I identify myself like an indigenous woman. So as I am from specifically, I am from the community Quechua Aymara. So my name Wara comes from there. So you were telling about the 2 important terms, sustainability and food security. So I have a project. It's for the ancestral practice, because ancestral practice in indigenous communities are very important, and to live, to have food, to survive. So the terms the most important in the indigenous communities are the sustainability and the food security. So my project is to help my community, Quechua. So we have a lot of small communities, but they are disappearing because climatic changes. So we have a lot of dryness, and mostly in my country, we have a lot of indigenous communities. So I speak Quechua. It's my maternal language, my first language. So when I went to my country, I wanted to collaborate with the indigenous communities, and I asked what is like, what they need to, what they want to do. So on the street, I see a lot of women with children asking for money, but the money was to have something to eat. So I wanted to know how I can help with that. So I went to the communities, and there the problematic was the dryness. They live communities there. They live 90% from the sustainable agriculture, but now they don't have food because there is not rain. So they don't have techniques, like they don't have modern techniques, and to have water they need to go so far, very far from the community to have some water for their cultives, for their cultives. So when I see this reality, I was very how can I say, sad, because I am from there, and to see my community like that, it was very difficult for me. So the project that I have is in one of those communities who are disappearing, and the most depressive. Depressive, that means it's very an emergency to help. So it's to have material like pipeline, to have water, so 7 kilometers, because the water is very far. So to have canals, I don't know how to say,
Pipes?
System the
Canal?
Canal systems from this source of water to the community, and also have some tanks. So like that, they can have water, and like that, they can have water for the cultives. So for that, they need the material, and for that, they need money to buy it. So there are a lot of, like, the government is not doing nothing. So we have a lot of corruption there, and the community did a lot of work to say, okay, give us something, we need help, but anyone is doing nothing. So for me, it's when I see that, I feel imprisoned. I don't know how to say that. Yeah, paralyzed to seeing it's nothing, and it like that, the ancestral knowledge is disappearing, and also the communities are disappearing, and they have a lot to teach to others about sustainable agriculture. So we are losing that because the climatic changes, and that is, we know where it's from, the climatic changes. So it's not, I don't need to say where it's from that. So what I want to, why I am here, it's for the, like you say, you told already, have a partnership, a relationship, and to work together in solidarity, because this project is so important for me. And if they are that I want is how can you help me to have this project, to realize this project, because it's not for me, it's for the communities. And where I can go, that if you know some places, so that's important for me to know. And yeah, so that was a little bit my questions. Thank you so much.
If I can start, I was recently in Mexico City for a course, that, like a week-long internship. And so we worked with a few organizations. One of them was Mujeres de la Tierra, and the other one was Mujeres de la Periferia Colectivo. And so what they're doing is women and children that are creating these collectives to bring back, very much in the way you're speaking, to bring back traditional cuisine and also traditions, because as we know in Mexico, industrial agricultural companies have taken over the land, killed the soil, and the traditional cooking or like was based with corn, on corn, I guess. And so a lot of those seeds, those kinds of seeds, are lost now. So these groups are trying to bring back communities to fight food insecurity by bringing back traditional cuisine. The places we saw were very much like you just described. The waters are polluted. It's very difficult. The knowledge, a lot of the knowledge has been lost. So I'm just thinking that maybe these are groups that would be good for you to know about, or to maybe also find out about their practices and their struggles. One thing that was very sad is they're having the same conversations, or sad or good, I guess, in terms of sharing, but is that they're having the same struggles and same conversations that we're having here about the industrial food system that has destroyed the earth, basically, or part of that. Yeah, so, but in terms of collaborating or helping you, I think, yeah, we would need to, I guess, have a more private conversation. I'm not sure. I would be happy to help in any way I can. But yeah, maybe Caleb, you have something to say.
And thank you so much for coming and for the project that you're doing. It sounds extremely necessary. The one small thing is that the Concordia Student Union has something called the Community Action Fund, and that's a very unique source of funding here, because like it can go to something completely non-university related, and it's fairly easy to access. And so that's like a fairly easy $3,000 that you could probably get for your project. Other than that, I personally have no expertise on irrigation systems in that part of the world or things, and I appreciate you sharing those other groups. But yeah, thanks for coming in for your ideas. And if I can send you the link to that, or like we can chat about how to potentially get money from that fund if that's something that would be useful. Hunter.
Yeah, I could speak a bit about from Le Frigo Vert. Yeah, thank you for coming and with your question. There's a couple of things that could be done. I would recommend also getting in touch with QPERG. It's a fee-levy group of Concordia, but it supports projects and gives funding to projects, and they don't have to be happening on campus, but if students are doing projects off campus, you can get funding from them that way. They also have all kinds of different things to help, like resources, office space, and support with like different parts of what sounds like your project might be involved with. At Frigo, we support different projects like this by doing like solidarity reduced markups. So like we sell a Palestinian olive oil that we heavily subsidize to make it affordable in order to get money to this Palestinian organization. The way we get our coffee is like a Indigenous women's collective, and so we subsidize that heavily as well to make it affordable, to be able to contribute to them financially in a kind of ongoing way. So if they ever wanted to sell any of their goods at Frigo, that could be a way that we could support them. Also, like, we have a space where you can host fundraisers, and since what you're working on like aligns with our mandate, then you would not have to pay money to use the space. So you could hopefully make money in one way or another doing some fundraising out of the space. It's also a good place to put out information about your projects, because a lot of people come into the space who are interested in supporting projects like that. So we have like a poster space. We also have a big lounge space where people are talking with each other about different projects and ideas all the time. You can table about your project whenever you want to in our space, in our storefront. So you can do outreach to people coming in and out of the space that way. And there's probably a lot of people who would want to support in different ways. So it would be a good way to connect with community working on some similar projects, and maybe people have some other ideas of how to help. But it's kind of a good sort of community hub to get plugged into for different projects. So yeah.
You're saying as a capstone? It could be. Well, yeah.
One of those people made an engineering project.
Yeah, like it definitely sounds like a hydro engineering project, for sure. So yeah, possibly connecting with capstone engineering students that are looking to do a capstone project. That could be another opportunity. You know, that would maybe be more like a longer term thing, rather than, you know, I think the ideas of like fundraising and using this space to build awareness and build other links is like, those are really good, like short term, medium term, and then the capstone could be like more of a longer term solution, or start to a solution potentially. Yeah.
Pongo Pata is the name of the community, and they are ready to tell you. They don't speak a lot of Spanish, but I can translate. Okay. So they are ready to do to share themselves than me. You know, they will show you, like in a conference or something like that, the problematic they are living, and also they are like very welcome if you want to go there to do, like, to know the community, to live and experience different experience, to know how they produce potatoes, and their knowledge, and so they are like ready to welcome you. And so yeah, it's for me it's a pleasure to be here and tell you about Pongo Pata community. And also I'm here like because I feel that's so important, not only for me, but for a lot of indigenous people. So yeah, it's the ancestral knowledge, I think, is important to continue practicing, because it respect the environment, it respect like it's eco-friendly. So yeah, and I am very happy. Thank you so much to share with me all your all this information, and I'm here for that also. Thank you.
There's also just thinking something called the soil food, the soil web.
Soil food web, I think you're talking about.
Soil food web with Didi Perhouse. They're working actually on soil irrigation. It's a large group that certainly would be worth consulting with. I could give you their email if you like.
Yeah, for sure. I am here for that. So it's good to have this sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions or any other feedback?
We actually do have a question on Zoom.
Oh,
from
we do.
Tatiana.
Excellent.
Yes, I'll read it out. Okay, so Tatiana says, I think Hunter brought up the increasing difficulty of sourcing food ethically. Could you speak on that a little more? Tatiana says that they volunteer with a group that coordinates community-sourced cooking for a couple of shelters in Montreal. They're pretty reliant on Costco and chain grocery stores for buying bulk ingredients on a budget. For the groups that make and distribute meals, Tatiana would love to know more about how you approach sourcing ingredients in a way that aligns with your values.
Yeah, okay. So, well, this is something that is partly built on years and years of work at Frigo. It was one of the main goals or things that we do, I guess, throughout these past like 30 years. So we put a lot of research into our products. Like we have an ordering mandate that's pretty strict. But it's always a balancing act, because if it's, quote unquote ethical completely, but nobody can afford it, then it's not accessible or practical, and that's not really ethical either. So I don't know. It's a big question, having worked in like farming and gardening and cooking. Like, I'm not really sure that you can ethically like get food from different places sent to like institutions or cities in an ethical way. Like every point along the way, like, is so much labor. So to fairly compensate everybody along the way, like, a meal is going to be like $50 or something. But yeah, how do we do it? I guess it's partly like we started as a bulk buying club, so that's part of how we work with the idea that, each person buying one little bag of flour is going to be a lot more expensive than 100 people going in on a big bag of flour. So that was a big part of our work for a long time. But more and more now, students, they're not necessarily living in a place with a full kitchen or have the time or knowledge of how to use a lot of bulk food. So we've had like less and less interest in our bulk food, which has us kind of shifting. We've tried different approaches. Like when we were trying to get really local, organic, healthy, accessibly sourced, like food, vegetables, like locally farmed stuff, we tried different things. We tried like giving the farmer a free space to do a farmer's market. We tried different things. What we ended up working kind of the best was buying the food straight up from the farmer and giving it, pay what you can. And then people were very generous with the donations. But it's tough to know how much you could scale that up. A lot of what we do relies on like just small people really hustling around, and there's just not a lot of profit margin with food either. So it's tough. And yeah, like I said, we've seen a lot of our suppliers go under. We try to help our suppliers, like we give them discounts on ingredients and stuff like that. But it's tough, like, to get people convenient food. Like there's so many steps along the way. So it's partly, we think, like focusing on education, how to cook cheaper, how to prepare like bulk food or do things cheaper than buying prepared meals. But yeah, like it's tough. It's really tough. It's everything. Food prices go up and up. Even small providers that we've worked with for a really long time, like the cost of the ingredients and transportation is the other issue. Like getting food from one place to another is just, you have to spend so much money on gas, and there's nothing really ethical about that. So it's complicated. It's like, it feels like a doozy, and every year we're like, how are we going to do this? And we just kind of do the best that we can. But yeah, it's some serious challenges and questions that are not answered.
Yeah, so suggesting that.
Yeah, just echoing like the balancing act, depending on your organization. Like at the potato, like we buy from like distributors and like the produce that we buy is very, very basic. It's literally like onions, potatoes, carrots, garlic, most of which we can at least like source from Quebec. But one thing that we do is that we rely heavily on donations from Moisson Montréal, which is the like central clearinghouse for all the food banks on the island of Montreal. So at least in part, we are helping like minimize food waste, because essentially like Moisson collects donations from major like food distributors, grocery stores, et cetera, stuff that like doesn't look pretty, so they can't sell it. So they get a tax kickback, we get free food, but it's like there's no easy answer for this, but possibly like depending on like the status of your organization, you might be able to reach out to Moisson Montréal. The issue with Moisson Montréal currently is that because of the cost of living crisis, they're getting less and less donations, and they're getting more and more like requests to join their organization. So yeah, I do not have an easy answer for you at all, actually. Yeah, that's what I had to add. But yeah, the struggle is real. And my hope in part with the garden is we can't source all our food from there. Definitely not. It's not a large enough garden space, but we can source some things, particularly like flavoring things, or things that are very productive, like kale. We can definitely grow enough kale for like a day of service. But I'm rambling. Sorry, I don't know if that was a very helpful answer at all.
Oh yeah, I was going to say I would speak to food security tables around Montreal. They may have resources. I sit at the NDG food security table, and there's always mentions of people wanting to donate food or sources as, things that they got too much of. So yeah, I would probably get in touch with organizations that are actually in the food security table business.
In a very theoretical way, I think we need to stop being so afraid of larger scale agriculture, because we are going to need a lot of onions and a lot of potatoes and carrots and all that kind of food. And there are ways to do that that are that are not as bad as other ways. And we're not going to be able to, we grew together, I think, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 pounds of food on the Loyola campus last year. More?
I think more.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Maybe if we're at 15,000, like Concordia's cafeteria that only serves residents goes through that much in a day, or not that much in a day, but I think that we need to find ways to look at some harm reduction measures rather than perfection measures, and build relationships with people who are producing food outside of the city as well.
Thank you, Caleb. Does anyone else have any other questions, comments, thoughts, feedback? No? Yes.
Thanks. I think one of the things that I really appreciate, and I just want to express some gratitude for a lot of the people and the organizations that are here today, is also, and importantly that we're in a campus setting, is the images that we're creating, like the sociological, the cultural images that we're creating, and the behaviors and the practices that are being normalized. One of the things when I first came to Concordia, I'm not even joking, I wept when I went to the People's Potato, I grew up, I still live in food insecurity, and just the idea that, you deserve to eat. There's no strings attached. It feels so welcoming. It feels like there's no expectations, it's that's so validating, to, I think, like to humanity, to a person, to an individual. And I think, you know, like that's just like one person, that's just like kind of like my takeaway, you know, but I think just being exposed and the fact that all of you have talked about your inboxes overflowing with student engagement shows me that there is some reception. And, you know, I think about these things, you know, like when these young people, you know, we're seeing a transition, you know, I think where there is like a change in sort of like people who are in more positions of influence and power, you know, and creating those images early on. And, you know, I like to be hopeful and think about sort of the world that, you know, we're co-creating and the spaces that we're sharing together. And yeah, so thank you. Thank you.
All right, just taking a quick time check. Yeah, I mean, we can keep the last half an hour just for kind of more one-on-one conversations, connections, networking, stuff like that. Kind of hate that word networking, but it's so corporate, but you know, this is essentially what this is, just connecting with each other. Yeah, so unless anyone has any other questions for the broader group, we can end the session for now. And yeah, thank you so much everyone for being here. Thank you so much Hunter, Sosa, Caleb, Andrea, everyone who participated, your questions. Even though we were an intimate group, I think we were really able to like dive in on some things, on some issues that everyone to a certain extent has dealt with, has experienced in their you know, in their missions and the projects that they're taking on around food. So yeah, thanks again for all your engagement, energy, knowledge, experience. It's really valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so once again, thank you so much to joining us here today, whether you were joining on Zoom or here in person. We thank you for your participation, your comments, and all of your questions. This was a really great event. We're going to go ahead and close up the Zoom, but thank you again for joining us, and you can always rewatch this on YouTube. So yeah, have a good one all.
Thank you.